With the exception of speaking at conferences, much of what we do as DevRel professionals is behind the scenes. However, with live streaming, we're able to not only learn in public, but bring our community members into the experience. While this can be intimidating and lead to questions like, what if I make a mistake? Or what if I don't know all the answers? Or even, how do I make sure I come across as knowledgeable while also learning? It can also be a great way to create engaging content that helps your community learn alongside you.
You're listening to the Community Pulse podcast. Welcome your host, Mary Thangvall, Jason Hand, PJ Haggerty, and Wesley Faulkner.
Today we've brought two guests, Darko Mezarosh and Laurent Bugnon, who combined have 10 years of live streaming experience, which is amazing. I know they all have plenty of stories to share and tips to give, so let's jump right in. Can you go ahead and introduce yourselves? We'll start with Darko.
Hello, I'm not muted? Okay. Hi, friends. Hello, my name is Darko. I am something they used to call a long time ago a system administrator. Remember that? So I started basically fixing computers, setting up networks, and all that fun stuff. And today I am in the world of developer relations. That means I get to yell into this camera for money, and I currently happen to work for AWS.
All right, my name is Laurent Bugnon. I'm based in Switzerland. I work for the other one, Microsoft. I've been at Microsoft for about 7 years now in developer relation. Before that, I was a software developer. I'm still a software developer. I still do a lot of development. Obviously, working mostly on Azure and this kind of platforms. And at the moment, particularly, I'm managing and producing a live streaming experience, which is called Learn Live, and we'll talk more about that later, I guess.
And I must say, for Lauren, you're from Microsoft and all this stuff, but do you have a Windows tattoo on your arm, or like something like this, or MS-DOS?
I have a bunch of tattoos, but nothing work-related.
Yeah,
I lightweight.
There you go.
I think the Venn diagram for the tattoos and live streaming seems to be like a complete circle right now. Traditionally, live streaming has been the domain of video gamers, and both of you do live streaming in relation to developer relations. Can you say why that's important for our area, why live streaming is particularly a thing?
So why is live streaming important for developer relations? Well, live streaming gives you this ability to talk to your audience, right? Traditionally, video content is produced in a sense of like, I'll record, I'll throw it on the internet, and somebody will watch it. Well, when live streaming, you have this ability to connect with your audience. So, and if folks are watching live, hello, it's just this beautiful way of being able to react to chat, give them kind of a sneak peek into the behind the scenes of what you do and how you do it, and ultimately make you look a bit more human. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can't agree more. For us, we have really a number of reasons why we continue to do live stream as opposed to on-demand content. So first of all, there are a lot of ways that you can reach out people, right? So we see kind of a return of in-person events now. So it's always interesting to see, in-person events which are more personal and the closeness is different, et cetera, the possibility to meet, the audience in person versus online events, right? So there is already this difference there. And of course, with the online event, you have the huge advantage that you can reach out to way more people, but at the same time, you don't captivate them in the same way, right? I mean, a view on YouTube, right? This is like the least significant metric of all times. It could be 5 seconds, or it could be 90 minutes. You don't really know. So that's the first thing, right? So live streaming for us has, of course, the advantage of being an online event, so we reach to a lot more people. The number of views that we make is tremendous compared to an in-person event. But then there is also the advantage versus on-demand. In addition to what Darko said, I like to tell my speakers, because I'm the producer, right? I'm behind the scenes. So when I have the speakers there, it's live. They are captive, right? While when we do on demand, it takes way longer, right, to produce the show, because they are not satisfied with what they say. They will go back and then they want to polish. And while when we do the live thing, it's one take. There is no question, right? Okay, we can always go back and fix for on demand, but no, it's one take. So this is definitely way easier, in my opinion, to produce. Also, it's a different tone. It's way more conversational, which is exactly what we are looking for. And for us, for the show that we are producing, the audience participation is super important. And so we also have actually moderators in the chat on wherever we stream, YouTube and Twitch, etc., who answer questions. And we also have the possibility for the speakers to answer questions from the audience directly, which the audience loves, right? I mean, they love to hear their name on the stream and to get included. So we have a number of things that we do on the show to include the audience even more. Like we have a knowledge check, for example, where we ask questions to the audience, and we have a polling tool for that. This kind of thing. So all over it, it's really a great experience. That being said, all the shows that we do, even though they are live, we also put them on demand. And then we see that in general, we get more views from on-demand content than from live content, because the on-demand content lives for weeks, months after the show, while the live streaming, people have to be there, right? So obviously you gather more views, but I do like the live streaming. I wouldn't like to do long form content as a recorded content so much, I think.
Well, and one of the things that you mentioned, Laurent, was the idea of, it's one take, right? And my brain immediately goes, for better or for worse. Yep, it's one take, right? Like
Yep.
you can't go back and fix things.
Yes.
But I think one of the reasons why that resonates with people, and one of the things that we talk about here often, is that idea of being authentic with your audience, right? Like, cool, this thing doesn't work like we expected it to. We say that, right? We're upfront about it. We publish content that is open and honest and a good representation of what onboarding is actually like, what building tools it actually like with our product, right? And so the live streaming gives you another opportunity to be that authentic with your audience, right? You don't know what's going to happen. We'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah, it's way more human. Things crash, things don't work as expected. Yep. We have, for those of you familiar with the Microsoft world, we have our largest event, right? Like Microsoft Ignite, we have 200,000 viewers, right? It's like huge. And in the middle of the show, some part of Montreal went black and we lost the speaker. And okay, what do you do, right? Well, we have two speakers on our show, so the other speaker took over. But again, right, those moments are actually amazing. Okay, it's a lot of adrenaline for sure, but they're amazing because it shows that, well, we're all human, we all make mistakes. Sometimes the demo doesn't work. Okay, you move on, right? And that's great, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the key parts about being in developer relations is the ability to earn trust, and there's no better way to earn trust than to fail in front of people. That brings out this huge authenticity, and it's just like, it suits my heart, because I want people that are trying to not necessarily sell something to me, but at least kind of showcase their employer's work to me. I want them to be real humans. I don't want them to be a Darko from Amazon Web Services, corporations include whatever, right? It has to be a normal human, and live stream actually gives you this ability because, number one, the expectations of content from a live stream are not to be 100% polished, right? Yeah. And that gives you this ability to kind of like, oh, that didn't work, and then you go and figure it out. Beautiful.
Yeah,
I think for a lot of the live streaming efforts I've been involved with, and the reason I've invited Laurent today to speak is because we did so much together at Microsoft. We worked on Learn Live together, and even before Learn Live, we did this program called Hello World, which was a real learning experience where, it was a real honor to be like the first daily quote morning show for Microsoft. But man, was that a lot of pressure. And there was some things that we had to do, even though it was live, and, you just got to do it and hope for the best, and, hope everybody's internet stays healthy. Things go wrong. And we had a lot of that happen to us in Hello World. I remember being the host, and I was the first person you would see on screen, and I'm supposed to say Hello World. And my computer just crashed, and it did that twice to me. So a huge platform and a major failure for me, very humbling learning experience, but also like that's part of live streaming that I think some people have to get comfortable with, is that there's going to be problems, going to be failures, and a lot of it comes from the tech and the tools. Now, I just want to pivot a little bit here. the tools and the tech has come a long way just in the last like 6 years. Even the platform we're using to do all this stuff for Community Pulse is pretty new. We're using something called StreamYard, which makes life very easy. Maybe we can start with you, Darko. Let's talk about a little bit about some of the tools that you are using, both on the streaming front, but also maybe some of the equipment that you think is real valuable, things like that.
Amazing. Well, check this out. Look at this. Haha. Second camera, you get to see my stuff working here. Well, so first of all, couple of things I'm working with here is, of course, a decent camera. Look at that. That's a camera. You need to invest money into camera. However, this camera I'm holding is okay, right? When you're starting up a live stream, my advice to you would be invest in a microphone. The microphone is the most important thing you can have. Remember, people watch you on a browser tab. You're somewhere else. Maybe they're looking up email, but they're still listening to you. So investing in a good microphone is critical. Now, I'm not saying you need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a microphone. A microphone that's $100 goes a long, long way. So good microphone, decent camera, and that's all you need, right? I mean, ultimately you want to get some better lights potentially, but if anything, just go with a really good microphone and a decent camera. That would be when it comes to the actual equipment I use. Software-wise, I'm a big fan of this whole platform here. StreamYard has changed whatever we do for one sole reason. No, two reasons. Reason number one, it was so easy for me to get into this live stream. Here's the link, Darko. Join right now. Amazing. Like, that's the killer feature of this platform. Second is the ability to highlight comments. So like if we had somebody in the chat, we could actually bring up their comment on the screen, which is a critical part of it. Laurent mentioned this in the beginning, that having people part of your stream with their names and their faces is just crucial. So good camera, excellent microphone, and a decent software platform like StreamYard.
Excellent. What about you, Laurent?
Yeah, I mean, I concur with a lot of what Darko said. I think that the camera is way less critical than a lot of people think. Like I see a conversation in our DevRel, chats at Microsoft about people who are discussing, should I take a mirrorless or a reflex or whatever? And I'm saying it doesn't matter. Like literally, I'm streaming using a Logitech webcam right now. Admittedly, I'm less on camera than I used to be before because I'm more behind the scenes. So I do have actually a mirrorless that I can set up as a webcam if needed. The only difference I notice is, okay, there is the bokeh, right? The depth of field that I can get easily with the mirrorless that I cannot get with the Logitech. But I mean, I see people do amazing content with a phone, right? I mean, phone cameras have come such a long way, maybe less for live streaming, admittedly, because live streaming is often from a computer, but I mean, I've been on StreamYard from a phone, literally, with a good camera. I mean, the phone camera is really excellent. So that, yeah, exactly, that works, right? Now, I do agree about the microphone. The microphone, I think, is the most important thing because multiple things. First of all, a microphone that doesn't pick the whole room, because the echo is going to make you lose people, right? Like if there is a bad audio, it's really hard. Second of all, something which is mounted like on the boom or whatever, because it's going to help you not catching the keyboard as much or whatever vibrations you have. So this is really good. That being said, again, right, and like Darko said, you don't need to invest a super lot of money. They are great microphone. Like this one is a relatively old microphone that I have, but nowadays, if I would buy one, I would probably buy a Yeti or whatever. I'm not getting any commission from them, but it's well-known brands, right? And for the rest, that's really what you need. StreamYard, I'm a big fan. For me, StreamYard is a game changer in terms of the ease of bringing guests on the platform. Also, it doesn't cost you anything it costs you something because there is a subscription if you want to do more than 40 minutes, I believe, or whatever. Nonetheless, before we were using things like OBS, and this is complicated. You need a virtual machine most of the time to run it, or at least a very beefy computer. And like you need to know what you're doing when you do OBS. But with StreamYard, no, you just join, you set up your thing, you can do some effects, some layouts, nothing too fancy. But I would argue that it's actually more than enough. And in fact, when you have too much effects and too much layouts, then it's confusing for the audience as well. So I like simple, I like to kiss, keep it simple, stupid.
And you mentioned before that people like to see their names or hear their name called when they enter a room or join a stream. What are some of the techniques that you use to keep the audience in the production, to keep them involved, to make them part of your live stream? Let's start with you, Laurent.
Okay, so we have I would say on the show I produce, we have really two techniques or two tricks that we use a lot for the audience participation. One thing is getting questions from the audience to the presenters, and this really varies widely. To give you an idea, our shows are typically 90 minutes, and we've had as many as 600-700 chat messages during 90 minutes on certain shows. Like, this is really a lot, right? And of course, all the chat messages are not significant. Some of them are just hi and hello, but a significant portion of those are questions, okay? So we have moderators in the chat, and this is really helpful because the speakers cannot physically answer all questions. The time is just not enough. But having the moderator in the chat actually helps, right? Because you can have somebody who is really dedicated to that, and we usually use we call them SME, like subject matter experts. Microsoft loves abbreviations. So we use the subject matter experts for that, either internally at Microsoft or from our community, it doesn't matter. So this is like a good way to engage the audience. The other thing we have is that we have, in every show that we do, we have what we call knowledge checks. So basically we have some questions, and then the audience can answer on the online tool. They can answer from their phone or whatever, and then we see how many people answer and what is the proportion of correct answers, these kind of things. Now, this is a feature that people really like. We always get positive feedback about that, and we usually have them either during the stream or towards the end of the stream. So like this, it kind of helps people to, when they are a little bit tired after 1 hour of stream, then you do a knowledge check, and then they have participation. They are awake. I hope they don't sleep. So this kind of thing is really good. Calling people by name on the stream, if you have an audience which is not too large, and then you have some, especially if you have some recurring guests, after a while when you produce, you tend to notice, oh, that person, actually, I already saw that person's name, and then you can call them on that, these kind of things. People love that, and it's, I'm a sucker for these kind of things as well. When I hear my name, it's like, oh, wow, somebody called me on, right? So yeah, this kind of thing is really cool.
That's awesome. Darko, what do you do?
I would agree with everything that Laurent says, and because big fan of shouting at people, especially returning members. Wonderful. When they see their name, like on StreamYard, you can kind of pop it up. When they see their name on the stream, they become part of it. They become a part of the stream. However, there's one more thing I like to do on these things. And again, I'm not sure if I should like share my screen right now, but because I know this is going on a podcast and whatnot, but I'm going to share my screen. So for the folks out there who are watching this or listening to this, just to know what I'm doing, I'm showing some code right now. And what I love to do in my live streams is I ask the audience, who wants to be a variable? Hey, friends, who wants to be, I will say, Wesley is going to be my client, whatever, right? It is just a wonderful way to kind of make your audience part of what you're doing, even if it makes no sense. It's not proper code etiquette. It is a wonderful way to kind of make them part of it. And if something fails, you can kind of laugh at it and say, hey, I have a problem with Wesley. And
wait. So Wesley is a variable that makes no sense. Did I hear you correctly?
Apparently, yes. That's okay. I don't know. That's kind of the thing. And I have a problem
Okay.
with Wesley apparently in my code. So it's kind of one of those things that it's silly. It doesn't really add too much to your code or anything, but it kind of makes the audience feel, first of all, they know it's live. It's absolutely live. It's not like some sort of magic thing recording. It's live. I have Wesley who's in the chat and they're very active, and Wesley is going to be my client new config thing in my code. Silly little thing, but it helps the ball keeps the ball rolling.
The part about they know it's live is really interesting, because how many times have we had comments where they don't actually believe that we are live? This is like hilarious. We see the YouTube comment and we're like, oh, they're not live, right? And then usually you have the producer, me, or whoever is answering in the comment, and no, we're live. Nah, you're not live. I don't believe you. And so, yeah, this kind of spiel is really good to actually engage people.
Yep.
Awesome.
So, do you have follow-up, Mary Chris? I've got one I can jump in with here that I've been just thinking about when
Go
they
for
brought it up. So we're obviously StreamYard. We all love it. It helps us in a variety of ways. And right now we're streaming to a few different endpoints. We're streaming to LinkedIn, YouTube, X. I think all of us have done Twitch. Some of us have done some custom things for Microsoft. What does everybody think about the landscape of where to send things? Like where are you getting the most traction? Where are you having the best results on where you send your content or broadcast your content?
From my perspective, the best, at least the best experience we had is on Twitch. The reason is the audience on Twitch expects a live stream, and those are the people who really like, oh yeah, this is what I am expecting. And if you're catering to them, that's perfect, right? If you sometimes go to LinkedIn, people are maybe who are not familiar with the concept of live streaming, they're kind of like taken aback, like what's going on here? This is not something I've expected. But on Twitch, this works really great because the audience is in the same mood as you are, in the live streaming mood, and you can have this wonderful conversation back and forth with them. So definitely works. YouTube, great platform as well, but so far Twitch has been by far the best for me.
Yeah, for us, I would say YouTube is probably our main platform that we stream to for multiple reasons. One reason is that we have a number of Microsoft channels who have a lot of subscribers, so adding content there is always a good thing. You know, you need to always have new content, and especially if you can have it on a regular basis. Also, YouTube has the advantage of keeping the video on demand after the show for as long as you want, right? So it's quite nice. But Twitch, I would agree that Twitch is a good platform to have, especially in terms of user engagement, because again, like Darko was saying, the users on Twitch are used to live stream, so they are used to write messages and etc. So usually we do both. We did some experiments on LinkedIn, we did some experiments on Twitter. Sorry, I can't say the other name. It's like etc., etc. And we didn't see that it really added a lot of views, a lot of users, or anything. But it does give you a credibility, maybe, which can be interesting, especially if you stream on LinkedIn. It kind of brings the word out that you're doing something, and this is always nice. I have a lot of people who know that I'm producing this show because when we stream on LinkedIn, they are notified, even though they might not have necessarily watched the show. So I guess, okay, is it good that they know the show if they don't watch it? I don't know. But at least there is, something which is going on, and then you hear a little bit more. So yeah.
Awesome. Along those lines, as we're talking through, where best to stream, how to stream, everything else, I'm also curious, we've touched on a little bit of what content works really well for streaming, but is there anything that you've discovered that doesn't work well for streaming? Whether that's different type of content entirely or a more produced video or what have you.
My go-to here is always ask yourself a question. If this wasn't live streamed, would it make a difference? And if the answer is no, you should not live stream that. That's it, right? If you would do the same thing pre-recorded and live streamed, you should never live stream that, because what's the point, right? So that comes a lot of the fact when people go on a live stream and do a webinar. And I'm like, yeah, okay, it's a platform for video, but like it's not the best use case of the tool, right? You can dig a hole with an axe, but there are better tools, there are use cases for that axe. So definitely anything that can be that can be equally as good as an on-demand stream is not potentially a good live stream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very good point. I don't have much to add to that. I think I see the content we do the content I produce is a little bit special because it's quite long form. 90 minutes is really long for a video and also for a stream. And for us, like if we do shorter stuff, we would do probably just on demand. Like we don't really, I wouldn't stream like a 5 minutes video or whatever. It doesn't make sense because people cannot even join, right? So highly produced content definitely is less suitable for that. But other than that, yeah, I mean, audience participation, if you can, longer form content where you can afford to have a little bit more conversation and maybe a little bit more like less formal thing is really good. Yeah.
Well, less conversations mean like less boundaries, right? So questions about like moderation. Sometimes people will say things like mildly annoying, like they're not really
Yeah.
live. But
Oh,
sometimes
yeah,
they
I've
can
had
say things
everything.
that are more offensive and kind of out of bounds. How do you handle moderation during the stream? Do you ignore it? Do you actively remove it? Like how do you challenge those things to make sure that they don't distract from what you're trying to do? Let's start
No
with you, Laurent.
tolerance for so there are multiple forms of frustrating and annoying content, right? What we have in general, I would say we are lucky. Our audience is very well behaved. Like tech people who are really into their deep tech stuff. Usually, we don't have that many issues. But I've had, I don't know, I've had somebody trying to flirt with one of the presenter who happened to be a, lady, and the commenter was a guy, and you know how frustrating and annoying guys can be. And it was kind of silly because she couldn't even see the comments, right? So like, what is the point? That is, that's not acceptable. I've had people trying to sell Bibles on the that's not acceptable. These kind of things. Thankfully, we don't really have a lot of offensive content, but offensive content, immediately remove it. Now, the cool thing is that the moderation tools are actually pretty good on the platforms. Like, we were talking about YouTube and Twitch, right? So if you're an admin there, or if you have moderation rights, it's very easy to actually remove somebody. You have different types of things you can do, like saying mute them, like for them to be muted for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I think they call that putting timeout or something. Or you can really, in the worst case scenario, just remove the message and block them from joining again, right? Which is pretty good. You can also report them to whatever. So I don't have a lot of tolerance for obviously scammy behavior or anything. Also, you need to think that if you have like on YouTube, for example, you can have the live replay enabled, right? So the chat will be visible also on demand. So you don't want to have these kind of messages on there, right? Now, obviously, we also have some cases where the person was not wanting to be offensive and just said something, and so it's a little bit like a gut feeling. But it's like porn. Well, when you see it, you know it.
Yeah.
If you don't know what it is, you see it, you know it.
Yeah.
Generally speaking. And so my guideline, because I also have moderators who are working in my team, usually my guideline to them is use your best judgment and don't hesitate to remove if it's not good.
Yeah, that
Absolutely.
spammy behavior sucks. Hopefully, it was at least a programmer's Bible or something like that.
No, it was
JavaScript Bible.
like the other Bible. Yeah.
Oh, the other one, the first one. Okay.
Yeah.
Darko, how do you
I have
handle
this
moderation?
JavaScript Bible. So no, I mean, ultimately one of the keys to do just moderation is have your audience be on your side, and this usually happens by being this friendly person who talks to them and they recognize your face, and your audience will be there to protect you if somebody's becoming a bit spammy. One important thing is, as a presenter, never react to comments. If they see you reacting, even if it means you just go like this and like trying to figure it out, oh my god, they're gonna come back. So these people feed on your uncomfortableness. So very important to handle those things professionally. At the same time, I always say that you should never be overly strict. So, for example, I had live streams where somebody in the stream would say, "Jeff Bezos should pay people," and they were banned. And I'm like, why did you do that? Of course he should pay people. Don't ban them for doing that. And I know it's kind of a distracting comment, but it makes you look even stupider if you decide to ban people for those reasons. So be selective what you do. Of course, no type of maliciousness or somebody trying to be offensive or sexist or racist, whatnot. None of that should be tolerated. That's done.
Mm-hmm.
Removed
Correct.
immediately, but removed without reacting to it. That is important. Otherwise, they win.
And also one thing, I mean, obviously you work for AWS, I work for Microsoft. I would never remove somebody because they say, hey, AWS is better. Because, okay, first of all, it's their opinion, which is absolutely valid. Second of all, they might have a good point, right? I mean, there are some areas where AWS is better, and there are some areas where I think we are better, and up to us to prove it, right? To say that, look, so I don't remove people for bringing our competition to the stream, as long as it's not obnoxious. And again, right, if it starts being obnoxious and obviously scammy and spammy and whatever, you'll feel it in your gut, and then you can remove it. Okay.
Yesterday on my official AWS stream, I talked about Azure DevOps. So Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There you go. It's all like, again, that should not be the case, because again, we're developers. We do use these things, and it's not about all of that. So if somebody's trying to be disruptive with those things, fine. But ultimately, it just makes you look bad if you start banning people for talking about competition. So
Yeah, life is too short
Yeah.
for these kind of things.
Yeah. Well, and again, it goes back to that authenticity piece, right? Like, do we really want to be seen as people who are automatically banning someone for simply mentioning one of our competitors? Probably not, because we want people to be able to trust us and know that we're not
Yeah.
only saying we're the best, absolutely, no matter what, right? So, okay, we're gonna start wrapping up before we go to checkout. So my last question, I would say rapid fire, but semi-rapid fire. What advice would you give to someone just getting started to live streaming? What do you wish you had known? What do you wish someone had told you? What do you wish you'd been aware of far sooner? What's the one major thing?
I have two things, two very important things.
Go.
Number one, do not take yourself too seriously. Do take your job very seriously, but not yourself. If you take yourself too seriously, nobody will like you. Number two, keep at it. Consistency is absolutely key when it comes to live stream. Don't stream 5 times and like, oh, well, I didn't get enough viewers, I'm going to just stop it. No, just keep doing it. You're going to stream to yourself for the first 20 episodes, and then people are going to start trickling in because you keep on doing it. So
Yeah. It's great advice. Laurent, what about you?
Great. Yeah, I would say also, if I keep to two, the first one is, don't think that the content you want to show has been done already, because it's probably been, but it doesn't matter. You're going to show it in a different way, and don't think that any content is too basic to show. Like, there are people learning all the time. One thing that I've learned in the 7 years at Microsoft is that we need to keep doing fundamental stuff, because we keep getting new people in the field, and people need to learn. So that's the first thing. The other thing is rehearse. I'm a big fan of rehearsing. Like, be prepared, I guess, is what I would say. And again, live streaming is not like on demand where you need to be polished, etc. But be prepared, because where you're going to lose people is when you start fumbling and not knowing what you're going to say next. And this kind of thing can be very frustrating for the viewer. But if you're prepared, and especially in the beginning when not used to it, right? I mean, obviously here we have a conversation. We've been talking nonstop. We didn't rehearse anything, but we've been doing that for like 10 years, right? So that's okay. We are used to it, and also we are amongst friends, so it's fine. But when you do something for your audience, there is a certain expectation. And I mean, I was very doubtful of TikTok. I was thinking, wow, oh man, we are going to see horrible content. And yeah, okay, a portion of that is not great, but a big portion of the content on TikTok is amazing. And it's great to see the creativity that people have, and they put in those smallish videos, and now TikTok expanded, and now you can put even longer videos. And this is awesome, right? But the people who do the stuff on TikTok, they really have talent. And everybody can have talent, but you need to work on your talent. It's not something that is just coming. And look at, the great actors on stage, right? They rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. So this is really, I think, important. If you're not sure, run it a few times by your boss or your friend or your, kids or whatever, see what they say, and then improve, and before you actually go on the stream, I think.
Awesome. Great advice.
Two great examples of advice there. Where I just realized we're running short on time, and there's still like a million questions. I know.
It's a live stream, right?
So many questions that we'd like to get to, but let's go ahead and kind of pivot here. And towards the end of the show, we like to talk about some of the checkouts. And obviously, let me just pause real quick, because I've been a little quiet. There's so many good things to say here, but having Laurent and Darko on chatting about things, I've done a lot of live streaming, and it's just a different beast. And I have to jump in and agree 100% or 1,000% or more with the dry runs and rehearsal and practicing. I think maybe some of it, when we do stuff like this, it's just very conversational. So we can just show up very well, prepared, I will say, to have a conversation. But when you're doing things where you're actually even at a fundamental level, and you're teaching people, and you're showing things on your screen, and you're doing, some kind of code examples, that stuff may come natural to us. But I think the more you do it in, like on a computer in front of a camera with lights and everything, like there's a whole experience to the live stream that's not just the simple act of showing somebody how to do something. So those things I think you get a little bit more comfortable with over time as you do them. So that the dry runs is something we picked up at Microsoft, or not even at Microsoft, but we definitely did multiple dry runs for about everything we did. At Datadog was a similar way. Laurent, you got something else there?
No, I wanted to let you finish because what you say is totally true, but I also wanted to add something. So please finish.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that when it comes to live streaming, like I see a lot of people who just seemingly just flip on the switch on Twitch and they just go. They're just like, they do it for a couple hours. They write some app, they have conversations. And that to me is wizardry. Like, and it seems like wizardry, but it's just practice. It's just people doing this over and over again. And literally, maybe once a day, every evening or something, they go and they just turn on their computer and just kind of do, and just exist. And that stuff, you have to have a little bit of, something internally to want to do that, the motivation to drive it. But the practice, I think, is where you really see people shine. Everybody on here obviously has done stuff like this in front of the camera multiple times. So my piece of advice is you just have to keep doing it over and over again. And it is scary. I mean, the fact that, we're here on camera broadcasting out to the void, you just never know what results come from that. So practice, like keep doing it and you get better. Laurent, what'd you have?
Yeah, what I wanted to say is developer relation is kind of a weird place because we are teaching, but also we are entertaining. And I think that the entertainment part is what I always tell first-time speakers who come on my show, and I coach them and I help them. I tell them, if you don't entertain your audience, you're going to lose them, and then you're not teaching them because you lost them, right? So, the little jokes, the little conversation thing, you would think that, well, it's not very professional, but actually you're keeping your audience, you're engaging them through that. So, and this is true, when you're on the stage presenting at a conference, this is true on the live stream, this is true on demand. You just need to do content which is creative and entertaining. And because if you don't, the audience is going to go somewhere else, so you need that.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's a little bit of a performative side of it that again takes practice, but is the fun part. That's why people show up, And
it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't like doing the live stream, well, it's fine. There are so many other ways that you can, do DevRel. You can write blog posts. You can, speak at conference. If you're not great in front of an audience, of a live audience, then do something else. There are so many ways that we can teach. So if it's not for you, it's okay. There is no shame, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's go ahead and pivot now and talk about some of the checkouts that we have for everybody. For those of you unfamiliar with checkouts, we spend the last 10 minutes of our show roughly just sharing some of the ideas and events, books, whatever it might be on top of everybody's mind. We'll go around the room and just and hear from everybody, and we'll start with our guests. So let's start with Darko and then Laurent, and then Wesley, if you want to take it from there. And I'll go, and then Mary, I think you're going to do PJ's duty today and take us out. So
sure.
Let's start with Darko. What do you got for checkouts?
So I want to direct you all, if you want to see some live streams coming from myself and a plethora of other amazing people on the topic of the cloud, open source, AWS, and all those kinds of things, community.aws/livestreams is a place to go. This is where show owners host their show notes, past episodes, and any little tidbits related to that. We have shows ranging from generative AI, of course, to data, to security, to a bunch of other things. So if you dislike Twitch's interface, which is just, it leaves a lot to be desired, and you want to find specific shows and specific topics, community.aws/livestreams is the place to go. And I think that's all for me. That's all of the checkouts I want to put out here. Thank you.
And thank you, Darko, for joining us. I know we're tight on time too, so hopefully we can squeeze all these in. But if you have to drop before we go, we appreciate you being here.
I'm gonna have to say bye to these friends. So thank you so much for having me. Bye.
All right. She's been like cracking up and coughing at the same time. But yeah, and how about you, Laurent? What can you share with us?
Yeah, well, I'm going to, just self-promote, I guess. So the show that I was talking about that I'm producing on my for Microsoft, and Jason, you've been working on that before as well, so you know it well as well. It's called Learn Live, ak.ms/learnlive. And we've been doing that for more than 2 years now. We are still at it. We do multiple episodes, every week. It's a fun show. I like that. And we really talk about all technology. So it's not just Azure, it's not just AI, it's really a lot of stuff. So yeah, come and check it out. And also, I just revamped my blog and my website. You know how sometimes you have those phases where you don't blog for like 2 years. Well, it just happened to me, and now I decided enough is enough. So I'm actually in a blogging streak now. So if you go to galasoft.ch, GALASOFT, and .ch is because I'm in Switzerland. So this is the abbreviation here. Then I'm blogging. I'm doing a series right now about link shorteners with serverless technologies, which is fun, etc. And if you want to see me in person, I'll be in a number of places. You know, in the next month, we are doing something at Microsoft called the AI Tour in the moment. If we are coming to a city near you, you should probably check it out because there is a lot of good content about AI, and I hear it's the next fad or something. So I guess you should check it out probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think we all have AI on our to-do list to check out. For some reason, people are talking about it lately. Wesley, about you?
So I'm up next, and I'm just clarifying, Laurent, when you say it'll be at multiple places, then they're not at the same time. So speaking of the Bible, that's not a reference there. For me, my checkout is an article that I saw about a spyware leak. It says the first of its kind look inside Chinese government hacking efforts. And this feels like the tables are being turned for the first time, of where you can see like the state actors actually how they get paid, how they get jobs, and all the inner workings. That is just, I think people will be dissecting this for like months to come to kind of figure out patterns. But also it's interesting to see what the repercussions are from the Chinese government, whether or not they have to throw out their playbook, create a new one. Will we see a dip in hacking in the future? So I thought that's pretty awesome that this is now public.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Cat and mouse game constantly. Let's see who's next. Me, I think. All right, so I've got 2 checkouts. One I almost completely forgot because I don't know, this week has just been one of those weeks. But earlier this week, I hosted my very first Datadog On episode, which is a monthly live stream that we do at Datadog, and we invite a couple of our engineers to talk about some of the projects and interesting challenges that they have. And I invited a couple of our data science engineers on to talk about data science and some of the things that we got going on over in that part of the building. And it was really fun. So that's going through some post-processing right now, and it'll be up on our YouTube channel, as well as we've got an actual Datadog On landing page that you can go check out. So that'll be in the show notes. And then the other thing that I'm heads down on right now, getting ready for, because it's not too far away, is Google Next. I will be in Vegas for Google Next speaking, talking about Datadog and Gemini, their model over there, and how you can do some really interesting things between talking to Google Gemini's models and Datadog. So that should be really fun, and have some cool demos to show off. And so if you're going to be at Google Next, let's connect there in Vegas as well. And that's my checkouts for this week, for this month.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. I've got 2 things. One, as some of you know, I've been back into reading more lately, which has been lovely. I've been really enjoying it. And I stumbled upon a new author to me. Her name is Noelle Salazar. She has a brand new book out, came out beginning of January, I think, called The Roaring Days of Zora Lily. And it's historical fiction, which I haven't gone for in years. It's not normally my genre, but this is extremely well written. It happens in the 20s, addresses a bunch of different issues, and also just follows a really cool character, really good storyline. And then after I read that, I found her 2 other books that she's written, and they are both very good as well. So highly recommend Zora Lily, anything by Noelle Salazar as well. And then app-wise, I'm traveling to Europe tomorrow for work, and found myself using Time Shifter again, which has been around for a while, but if you haven't used it before, I highly recommend it. It basically takes your flights into account and then recommends when you should be drinking caffeine, when you should avoid caffeine, when you should go to sleep and get up the next morning, so that by the time you get to where you're going, it's a lot easier to adjust to time zones. So it's been not too difficult this time around, and I'm hoping it's going to be okay tomorrow and Sunday when I finally get there. But definitely recommend it if you're someone who either struggles with jet lag or really has a need to adjust quickly once you arrive. And with that, I think we are done for today's episode. Thanks again so much for joining us. And those of you who've been around for a while know that we love closing things out with a quote. I'm taking PJ's place today. He's usually the one that comes up with a quote here, so I'll see if I can do him proud. But I found one from Wiz Khalifa that seemed like a really good representation of what we were talking about with engagement from your audience and engaging people in our day-to-day work. And he said, "My live performance, it just comes from feeling an energy and emotion from the crowd." And with that, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Community Pulse. Find out more at communitypulse.io, on Twitter at community_pulse, or anywhere you get your favorite podcast. If you've enjoyed this podcast, check out our extra podcast, The After Pulse. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on